Welcome to Straight Talk with PAP. I'm Yvonne Chan and I'm your host for today. In the first installment of this series, we get PAP candidates to share their views on policy and issues that affect Singaporeans. And in this episode, we will examine the issue of climate change and its impact on sustainability and our environment. Now, we have with us today Minister Masagos Zulkifli, Minister for the Environment and Water Resources, and PAP candidates Dr. Khor and Ms. Hany Soh. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining me today.
Pleasure.
Now, the issue of climate change has become more pressing than ever, from shifting weather patterns that threaten food production to rising sea levels that increase the risk of flooding. The impact of climate change is global in scope and unprecedented in scale. And if we do not take drastic action today, dealing with the impact of climate change will be even more costly and difficult in the future. PM Lee has said that Singapore needs to understand, mitigate, and adapt to climate change. But COVID-19 has really exacerbated a lot of these challenges. So how is Singapore preparing for this? Minister, I'd like to address this first question to you.
Thank you, Yvonne. If you look at COVID-19 and what it has done or threatened to our food supply, our daily lives, the nature of COVID-19 itself, in terms of how it can infect people very quickly, very easily. These are all scenarios that can happen, and in fact, more frighteningly, more permanently when climate change is upon us at the end of century, for example. What people know more about climate change is about temperature changes, higher temperature, and also more frequent storm, and then in places where lots of water, suddenly no more water. And for us, the existential threat would be 1 meter sea level rise at the end of century. Now 1 meter doesn't look very much, it's about this high. But if you couple that with severe storm inland, high tide, and scientists have put together a scenario that we could go up as much as 4 meter flood, 4 meter above sea level rise, which will flood places like East Coast, where we are right now. And we don't want that to happen, which is why after looking at the hydrology of Singapore and the possible scenarios, one of the things we have done is to commit $100 billion to fortify our coast. And in the process, we also have the opportunity to beautify and add new functions of land and use when we fortify these coastal parts. This is going to be a massive initiative and effort. And we also must not forget that coastal protection is what you call adaptation, being prepared for climate change. But we must do our part to make sure that we live and breathe sustainability in all parts of what we do in Singapore: economy, social, daily living, everything, even how we move from one place to another. Maybe I will start that as an opening remark for our conversation.
Yeah, where fighting climate change needs to be addressed to all levels of society.
Absolutely.
Yes, Dr. Khor.
I just wanted to add also that if you look at COVID-19, right, I think in every crisis there's always opportunity, and we never should waste a crisis. And so in through COVID-19, you can see that, one of the things is COVID-19 within months actually did what we tried to do for years and couldn't really succeed. That is really to transform the way we work, do business, really digitalize. I never did Zoom, but for over COVID period, Zoom is now is going to be a verb or something, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is something that leads to, for instance, lower carbon emissions. So one of the things you see COVID-19 is, although we are all forced to do this, but actually it shows collective effort can, make an impact. Yeah, and like I said, don't waste the crisis. So if you are, going to look at, this is a crisis of our generation, COVID-19. But really, if you take your eyes off climate change, it could become the crisis of many generations, because the impact of climate change could have even a longer tail, right? In terms of if the land is gone because of flooding, sea level rise is gone. If land is degraded because of higher temperature and then over exploitation, is gone. If the animal is extinct, right? So you really can't take your eyes off that, and you have to redouble efforts to take climate action. And the other thing is that as you revive the economy because of the pandemic, and in that sense, you look at the new normal. The new normal, one of the key planks in the new normal must be climate action. It must form part of the new normal. Because indeed, COVID-19 has actually shown, exacerbated, all these impacts.
I want to add one more thing. Amy has triggered me to say this, because in the last budget, what we are very happy about is that every ministry talks about climate change within and in the center of what they do, even MINDEF. So MINDEF is going to be green more than just being in an army. So they're going to have green camps with solar power and so forth, and even their vehicles, they're going to change them all to first hybrid, and then later on to electrification. And I think this is the kind of mood that we are getting within government, across all ministries. And you talk whether it's transport, whether it's energy consumption, energy generation, R&D, everything is moving towards a sustainable economy, an economy that will engender us to embrace responsible consumption and production. At the same time, to look at how this becomes our trademark. Singapore was known in the past, or still known currently, as clean and green, but in future we should be known as sustainable Singapore.
And that starts, a lot of it starts with the people having to change our mindsets. I mean, the government might be adopting some of these initiatives as well, but it needs to start at the ground level. In 2019, one of the REACH studies showed that Singaporeans aged below 30, 9 out of 10 of them felt that climate change, the threat of climate change was real. The government needs to invest to mitigate this change. Those aged between 30 and 54, out of that group, 8 out of 10 thought likewise. But it's the group above the age of 55 who are a little bit more, maybe more neutral about this topic, right? So how can we foster a stronger sense of urgency in the older generation that the issue of climate change is important and we need to deal with it now?
Perhaps I can chime in now, because I fall into that group of the age 30 to 35, where we are really, wanting to make a difference, and we know about the existence of the problems of climate change and what are the things that we want to do. So I think education is very important, because I sit in Zhonghua Primary School's School Advisory Committee as a chairperson, and also because of my background as a Northwest District Councillors. Northwest CDC is Min will know, we are always championing in terms of green initiatives, trying to see how we can make sure that apart from, of course, giving people the hardware to know of what are the problems available, what are the resources available, knowledge and education is very important. So actually it has to start from young, right? So the students in Zhonghua Primary Schools, a lot of them has been actually educated to become the ambassador of green eco-living. In fact, sometimes they even go to the CC to have a better understanding, because in Bukit Panjang CC, it's actually eco-CC. So there are a lot of green initiatives there. We want to take the opportunities to educate the young. So at the same time, with the young having the knowledge, they can actually educate their parents or their grandparents. So during the COVID-19 period, it was a very good example, because these children knows that it's important to, ensure energy saving. So they will remind their parents or their grandparents, hey, you didn't switch off the lights, switch off the aircon, we don't need it, for now. So these are things that it really takes a village, a community, and ground-up initiatives to work hand in hand to make sure that the awareness is being raised.
So you've been seeing more behavioral changes in your residents, because I know you have your eyes and ears to the ground at Northwest CDC.
Yes. So, I mean, in Northwest CDCs and during my grassroots experience serving in the residents committee in Bukit Panjang, so we have been championing things like emphasizing on the 3 Rs. So for example, recycling, right? That's an initiative that is collaborated with the Northwest CDCs and the Tzu Chi Foundations, where we raise awareness. I mean, typically a lot of people knows that there are a lot of recycling points where it's just a bin, you throw it there. But I think those are very passive. But whereas this type of initiatives where it's championed by the residents committee, together with the schools as well, it's where you come together, you do the outreach to tell the residents that, we can do this and make a difference. And to raise the awareness in terms of when you want to segmentize your waste and what are the things that is actually recyclable and non-recyclables, to take the initiative to raise the awareness. Yeah.
It really takes initiative, and it also takes a lot of effort to want to make that change. Thank you for that, Hany. You know, Minister, you talked about this coastal flooding prevention plan.
Yes.
I think Singapore has laid out quite a few goals that we want to achieve to tackle climate change, and there's a very pressing goal that I want you to address right now, and that is our 30 by 30 vision. A very ambitious plan, and also that's a plan where we want to meet 30% of our food needs internally by 2030. And a recent COVID-19 pandemic has really exacerbated, how fragile supply chains actually are and how easily they could be disrupted. How is Singapore faring on this front of achieving 30 by 30?
Prior to COVID-19, we have already seen that if, on paper at least, any part of our food supply could get disrupted, we need to be ready for it. And therefore, the way we have been going about it is to, for example, accredit more countries, more farms. Therefore, we have alternatives when one part of the region is not available for us to get our food, and another part of the region can do that for us. And you can see that, in fact, for the recent African swine flu, where one region was very much affected. It couldn't supply pork for consumption in Singapore. But we had a plan to diversify very quickly and assure the supply coming to Singapore for good. COVID-19 has shown us that, well, that kind of plan may not work, because when countries stop the supply because they fear for their own food security, and every country starts to think like that, then you have a huge problem. And therefore, today it justifies us why we need to go more than just diversification, also to grow within. Now we have a big challenge there, because our goal is to grow 30% of our nutritional needs by 2030. We got it 30 by 30.
Yes.
I went to Netherlands and I saw how they could grow food productively, but they have lots of water and not enough energy. And then I went to UAE and to study how they do their food production. They have lots of energy but no water. And in Singapore, we have no water, no energy, and no land. So when we talk about 30 by 30, when we discuss with all the land ministry and everything, okay, you can do it, but on 1% of land. So that's the kind of challenge we have. But I'm glad I think we can do it. Now we need some time to get there. But this 30 by 30 vision now has got more impetus to do it right and to do it quick. So we have launched now, just recently, 30 by 30 Express.
Wow.
Where we are giving $30 million to our SMEs to tell us what can you do to double your local production in 6 to 24 months. And we've got inputs and submission now. We're very excited about it from for fish, vegetables, as well as eggs.
Are we likely to see more vertical farms as well? With this?
Vertical farm is
already there, right?
It's already there. It's what they do in there. And the opportunity for SMEs to grow and even export their technology, and then grow overseas and bring it back. And then secondly, jobs. Because these sectors that we're looking at, whether it is food, the new food sectors, environment sectors, we estimate something like 4,000 new jobs that can be created for this. And then over the 10 years with the 30 by 30 Express, the Zero Waste Singapore, which I think Amy is very passionate about, all these things we think will produce something like 55,000 new jobs in 10 years.
Fantastic, 55,000
The proof is in the pie, because we have done that for water. In the 10 years since Dr. Tony Tan launched this productivity and R&D on water, we have produced 8,000 jobs from the water sector alone. So I think that's the kind of promise that will be interesting, and I think for the youth, they will see this as a meaningful job.
Yeah,
absolutely.
In fact, it's not just more jobs, it's actually better jobs, higher skill jobs. It's through skills upgrading, to technology adoption, which I think will accelerate with COVID-19. It really shows.
You said never waste a crisis.
Yes,
So everything is happening at full speed
you have
right
to
now.
have opportunities, right? Make use of, seize the opportunities, really. And because they are higher value added and jobs, with higher skills, actually like in environmental services sector, it also means better working conditions. So it'll be more attractive jobs for Singaporeans. Singapore companies can do more business, diversify, and then more jobs. So, I was looking at this. So it's really about better jobs, better lives, better future.
And we're at the forefront of this new technology, technological frontier.
That's right.
Can I just give you a teaser of the kind of interesting thing
Why
we
not?
do
Yes,
in food?
of course.
Now, we know we all grow sea bass in Singapore, and there are two kinds of sea bass. One, which is 6-month-old sea bass that we dish size, and there's also the 2-year kind that's Kulbara produces. But both of them, when what they need to do is to make sure that the fries, when they hatch, they survive, because you want to have high yield, otherwise they die. Now, at the hatching time, they have to feed on very small planktons, and these are produced in Singapore. We know how to do it then. And then at 6 months old, we also need to produce different kind of, as a few days old, a few weeks old, different kind of planktons, different kind of food for them. And we have those technology, and we are doing it. And more importantly, for the one of our farms, which I mentioned, is the Kulbara, they have what called broodstocks. Broodstocks we are controlling in Singapore, which if you try to steal their fish and try to produce your own fry, you can't produce that kind of fish. And this fish, for example, I'm sorry, it looks like I'm promoting their fish, but this is really so special because it's very hard to grow sea bass, old sea bass, so to speak, 2 years old, and tastes good, and cooks well, and loved by chefs. And I think this is something that Singapore is very good at. And now I know even Brunei have given them an opportunity to open up farmlands over there. So we are exporting our technology, we are growing our SMEs, and therefore I think this comes with jobs too.
Jobs and better jobs and new skills, yes, and opportunities.
Yeah.
But now you make me crave fish for lunch, after this.
Great collagen too.
Thank you. Well, everything with collagen and beauty, I'm there. Thank you, Minister. Now, you talked about this 30 by 30 plan having to go hand in hand with the Zero Waste Master Plan. Dr. Khor, can you elaborate on the progress of this plan for us, please?
Well, first of all, we launched our Zero Waste Master Plan last year, and really it's about the strategy, a holistic strategy to make a paradigm shift to adopt circular economy approach towards a zero waste practice. And what do you mean by circular economy approach? Because some people don't understand. So actually, a very simple illustration is this idea about closing the water loop, because we recycle water now. So actually, it's quite weather resistant. Yeah, every drop of water you can reuse many times. So here, when we talk about circular economy, you're also talking about like closing the waste loop. That means instead of waste, this waste can be recycled and turn into some raw materials for feedstock, for instance, or make into instead of using virgin materials, use this to make products, right? So that's what we call trash to treasure,
yes.
Closing the waste loop. And under the Zero Waste Master Plan, when we say towards zero waste, so we want to reduce the amount of waste that goes to our only landfill, the Macau landfill, by 30%.
That's right.
By 2030. So here we love the number 3, 30 by 30, and then 30% by 2030. But
how are we doing on that front?
Yeah, but I think first I need to qualify. When we say 30% of waste reduction, right, to Semakau landfill by 2030, some people may imagine mountains of waste that you bring to Semakau landfill and then reduce that amount. But it is not. Actually, we are reducing 30% of the waste, but it's actually incinerated bottom ash, IBA, because we actually incinerate most of our waste. Only a very small percentage cannot be incinerated, and those that can be incinerated, we incinerate. Those that can be recycled is already taken out. So what we're talking about is reducing that. When you incinerate, it means you reduce the volume of waste by 90%, so only 10, but even that we want to reduce. And how do we do that? One of the strategy we have really is turning IBA into construction materials, right? And we call that new sand. So we have new water, now we have new sand. That's a resource. In fact, sand is actually a scarce resource for Singapore.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, sometimes it can be quite existential also.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So new sand, how we use IBA to research R&D. We can make it into construction materials for paving roads and non-structural concrete. And in fact, if you go to environment building now, there are actually concrete benches, 3D printed, not concrete, IBA. Right, IBA benches that is 3D printed, as well as part of the plaza is also made of this. And then we're going to try this IBA at Tanah Merah Coast, construction materials. So how do you make the construction material? High temperature gasification of this IBA becomes slag, which is like a glass-like material. So that's sand. So this really is the crux of what we talk about in Zero Waste Master Plan. But then under the Zero Waste Master Plan, there are actually 5 strategies. So with one hand, but I got extra lah. Yeah. So the 5 will be, firstly, is really talking about the legislation that you require.
Okay.
Secondly, is the infrastructure required. Thirdly, is about industry development. Fourth, R&D. And fifth, outreach and education, which Hany was talking about earlier. So these are the 5 key strategies. We already implemented the ACT, Resource Sustainability Act, last year. And the 3 key waste streams, I'll finish here, the 3 key waste streams under the ACT that we are looking at are packaging waste, food waste, and e-waste. And why, right? You say there are many types of waste, because these are the 3 where the recycling rate is low and the potential for growth of this waste is high. For instance, online shopping, delivery, so we see that in CB period.
Yes.
So these are the 3 key areas. Later on, we could talk a little bit more about each of the waste stream, but I'll stop here.
Excellent. Yeah, I can tell you're really passionate about this, and we could go really into deep detail, which we will in a little bit. I am very curious about the point where you talked about during the CB period, there was a lot of online shopping, a lot of additional buying and additional packaging, not just from shopping, but from food deliveries as well. I mean, in the recent year, there was a concerted effort to really reduce packaging cost and waste, but this has certainly gone up during the CB period. What sort of other measures can we implement to keep this sort of costs down? This is a very daily cost that will be incurred for many.
I think when we talk about waste in the first place, don't produce it if we can. And if you have to dispose it properly. Which is why we have this Zero Waste Master Plan. The key and core of it is how you separate waste. Now in Singapore, fortunately, in our new technologies that we have today, we don't even have to separate into 720 or 7 or 8 or 9 bins. What we ask everyone to do is simply do not contaminate recyclable with food, and do not contaminate food with any waste. If we can do these things, then the acts that Amy has just enacted would enable us to recover resources from it. Food, for example, if you look at what we have done in OTH, our Tampines Hut, every day we generate 1 ton of food waste every day. But this, through the digester, we have been able to reduce it to only 70 kilograms of fertilizers. So you can actually use this food waste and turn it into something useful. But if you add into it batteries or e-waste or toxic stuff, then it's quite useless. So separating food waste from all these other sources of waste makes it a treasure. Something we can use, something we can sell. Which is why what Hany and company is doing is very important.
I totally agree with Min. I wanted to share about the food waste part. So in the RCs itself, right, actually in the community, we have the community gardens, which is actually tended by our residents. They grow plants, organic plants and fruits and vegetables in the community gardens, so as to not rely too much on external sources as well. But at the same time, one interesting thing that I've found is pertaining to the fertilizers. Yes, so for example, a lot of people doesn't know that if you use the eggshells, if you crushed it, if you put it into your soil, it in a way sweetens the vegetables to some extent. So these are the things that the residents sometimes will do. And fertilizers, they will tell me, is they prefer the organic types, which is actually derived from the food waste. So this is one of the things that actually the community can come together and work hand in hand. Yes.
What are the plans are in place for the community in terms of inculcating more eco-friendly lifestyle habits?
The plans is really emphasizing on the software, like I said just now, in terms of the education part, but at the same time also allowing them to have more of this kind of opportunities, telling them that, look, we have the community gardens available. I know that NPark is targeting to do more, to have more community gardens in our community.
Producing food.
Yes. Food, fruits and vegetables.
And contribute to 30 by 30.
Must.
In fact, some of them actually use the fruits and vegetables to organize cooking classes in the RC centers, to do the outreach, at the same time teaching residents how you can grow your plants, how can you there are some things that perhaps we do not need a certain key type of ingredients that may be actually a rare form of ingredients that we may not find it easily accessible in Singapore. So any other things that we can replace with.
Good substitutes that would actually
Yes.
just make green living a lot more sustainable.
For people like Hany and anyone, and not just RCs and grassroots organizations who are interested in sustainability,
Yeah.
we launched a $50 million eco fund this year, and we want to make it available for people to think about what they can do to basically do something interesting other than just the usual separating of trash and so forth.
Yes.
I'll give you one example where we are piloting in Tampines, in my own town, getting people to bring down their food waste every day. And then they're going to feed this food waste to the black soldier fly. The black soldier fly itself will produce frass that can be used to grow vegetables, very good fertilizer. And the black soldier fly itself can be used to feed the fish. Fortunately, I have the last HDB pond in Singapore, and I'm converting that to a fish pond that will be used for fish food. Yeah,
Very resourceful.
Yes, and then within that community, they can get vegetables they can eat, and they can get fish they can eat, and this gives you resilience.
This is circular economy also.
Exactly.
Circular
Yes.
economy at work.
Yeah.
And then I know in the PAP's 2020 manifesto, the government said it's also going to introduce new concepts of sustainable living with the HDB Green Town programs. Would you care to elaborate a bit more on that?
Now, this is again a whole of government effort, because all this time, what we've been doing is to green our infrastructure. So we're going to have solar panels everywhere and reuse water and so forth. But we need to make sure that this is something we Singaporeans live and breathe, sustainability. And how do you get that done? One way is we're going to produce what you call eco-bots, where everyone knows in that block of flats how much energy is everyone using, and then how much water you're using, how much waste are you producing, and how do you compare with the other blocks? Now we can actually gamify this, and see that how can you change your habit a little bit and contribute towards reducing energy that you do not need to use or waste that you don't have to produce. So we have this simple thing challenge for such blocks that will participate.
How has the reception been to that?
We're just starting. She wanted to do it in April, but COVID came, unfortunately. So now we're going to restart this since everyone can go out and then look at the boards. And we want to have three challenges. One, can you increase your your air condition temperature by 1 degree? So 1. 2, can you reduce your shower time by 2 minutes? And 3, practice the 3R.
Some people say they already showered 2 minutes, so last 2 minutes.
So it's still the 3 R's: reduce, reuse, recycle.
Yes. So if we can get everyone involved in the block, and then they can see how they are competing, with the others, and they have this what you call Hall of Fame, within the blocks. We hope that through gamification, people will change behavior and then see that, well, actually I don't have to shower that long, it's quite all right, I actually tried it out once, and
You reduce your shower time by 2 minutes.
I went down all the way to 3 minutes shower. Yeah. So my wife didn't complain, so it's okay.
So this sort of plan, this template, right, that you'll be rolling out really, really soon, is something that you could also,
Yes.
if successful, roll out in the Northwest CDC
Yes.
and other CDCs.
Yeah, that's the plan. Right?
Yes.
That's the plan.
Yeah.
In fact, I think Northwest CDC has done something similar in terms of the reduce part, which is to ask the students to educate the residents, and then the residents can participate in this contest. So over a period of time, if they are able to show a reduction in the energy, they actually get vouchers, shopping vouchers.
So the problem with the past is that you have to bring your bills, you have to show. So it's not online. Coming soon, we're going to put smart meters.
Yeah.
And I can know who is using where, when, and whether you're using too much immediately.
300,000
Yes.
smart meters
300,000 new smart
in the
meters.
flats. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you know very quickly, real time, your energy use, your water use, and we are going to see how we can also give information on trash and waste produced.
Yeah, so there's a lot more awareness that's being generated, and so people become a lot more self-conscious about that. But I think there's still not enough that's being done to raise awareness about e-waste. How can we better tackle this, Dr. Khor?
So just before I talk about e-waste, I just wanted to go back to this thing about COVID, and then people do online shopping and then use a lot of delivery, right?
Yeah.
So I think actually the good thing is we started even before knowing COVID came, that we should encourage the use of reusable containers, for instance, and then reduce the use of disposable. So, for instance, we work with Zero Waste SG. Bring your own.
Yes.
That means to bring your own reusable bag, your own reusable
your coffee,
containers.
for your whatever, yes.
And then work with the organization, I think 59 organizations across 1,600 premises, reaching out to millions, about this effort, as well as getting them, for instance, some retail F&B. If you bring your own container, Mark, you actually get a rebate, right? 50 cents or things like this.
And then it adds up.
Yeah, and get the delivery companies or the F&B themselves to ask, do you want disposable cutlery? If not, then you save it. And actually, during CB, I do see this happening that, the F&B will ask, do you want the cutlery? And then they will not give it to you if you don't need. But in takeaway, we have been actually encouraging them to use reusable containers. So actually, I see people carrying the tiffin again, If it's takeaway, tiffin, which is a good thing. So I think we started. Obviously, we need to do a lot more to get this down to the ground. So we're looking at Hany and everybody else to go and promote it. But a lot of the NGOs, actually are working with us to do this, right? So for e-waste, very often you hear people say that they want to recycle their e-waste but don't know where to bring them to. Yes. Yeah, which is a good thing because that means more and more people know about the fact that they need to be green. So we are working on setting up island-wide recycling points, e-waste recycling collection points, like say in Best, and Denki and so on and so forth. But really next year, this extended producer responsibility framework, right, for e-waste will be implemented from next year. And what that means is that the retailer, the importer of these electrical and electronic products, or the manufacturer, will have a duty to make sure that whatever they put out to the market they sell, end of life of product they must take back and make sure that it's recycled properly with licensed e-waste recyclers. So they have to make sure that this happens. Either, when you buy a fridge, you'll be free take back, for instance, or your recycling points, like I say, where you can collect, right? And we are actually now, we closed the tender already for the producer responsibility scheme. So this organization is going to be the one in charge of helping all these other producers to collect and then, to get it recycled. And we'll be selecting the PRS, that's one. And by 1st July, we should be 2021, we should be ready to implement this e-waste recycling scheme. Again, let me tell you, 5 types of regulated products, right? We always have 3 and 5, right? So it's large household electrical appliances, right? All your fridge, washing machines, and so on. Then you have got your batteries, you got your ICT equipment, you got the lighting, right? And you got solar panels. And PMD is inside the household, the large appliances. Yeah. So all these regulated products, there will be these schemes, whether it's take-back schemes or you actually, go to recycling points, and then it will be recycled. As Minister says, some of these are hazardous. Yeah. So we need to recycle properly. And the very important thing is that trash to treasure again. All these products has got precious metal, valuable, useful materials that you can take back
we'll be leveraging
and you
technology
can use it.
to extract.
You already have a lithium extracting
that's right.
capability in Singapore. So all your lithium batteries, everything can be reused.
Yeah.
Don't throw them away and then poison our land.
Correct. We have like 3 recycling facilities. One, I think, new ones. One is already completed, I think. The other 2, due to COVID, I think got some delay. But they should come on stream. And by the time it's all completed, 50,000 tons of this e-waste can be recycled. So we have the capacity. But actually, the important thing about the EPR scheme, the principle really is about, because the producers are responsible, then they will think hard how to reduce the materials that I use, so don't need to pay so much, right? Because it's cost to them. How to maybe extend the lifespan of the product, or how to sell it differently. For instance, leasing. So then, that kind of thing. So actually reduce the amount of resources that they use to, and you also encourage recycling. So actually that is the key principle.
Are you also encouraging a lot more dialogue now between policymakers and the citizens,
Yes.
residents, to come up with new plans to see how
That's
else we can do
Amy's
this?
passion too. Citizen work groups.
Yeah.
Tell us more about that. How have you been
First of all,
progressing
when
on
we
that front?
had the year for climate action,
Yes.
right? That was in 2018.
Yes.
Yeah. We formed what we call a Climate Action Alliance. We actually got a lot of very passionate groups around, which I think we are very encouraged and heartened. We are young people like Hannah and Hany, NGOs, for instance, and they're all very passionate about sometimes it's certain
Very narrow,
cause.
but-
Yeah, but very
Part of
good,
it all.
doing very good work. So like I say, Zero Waste SG, you have your food bank, Food from the Heart,
Yes.
you have WWF, you have Green is the New Black. I must promote Green is the New Black, so don't wear black anymore. Yeah,
Just half, okay.
but so we formed this Climate Action Alliance, which is actually an alliance of all these groups, and we kind of support them so that there is no duplication of efforts as far as
Yeah, you
possible,
don't
and we
want that.
support each other in some of the causes, and because of that, we actually managed to support each other and implement quite a lot of initiatives, both on and offline. Right. In addition, we have done this citizens work group. So last year we did one citizens work group on recycling rights.
Yes.
Okay, which is about the blue bins and so on. And we had a lot of people who, very passionate and wanted to sign up.
Yeah.
But we had 50 of them to work on this, and they come up with very good ideas, which some we are implementing. Right. For instance, the deposit refund scheme, which we are going to do for packaging, which is actually post-consumer plastic. It's one of their ideas. Right, and then this year...
You must tell us
Yeah.
why we want to collect the plastics.
Oh, yes. Okay. But then I'll be talking like this.
Quick one, tell us why we're collecting plastic.
So it's for recycling. It's trash to treasure again. So actually, this is actually very important. A lot of people actually say that, oh, how come our plastic recycling rate is very low?
Yeah.
Obviously, we're not proud of low plastic recycling rate. But first, I think the good news is that over the last 3 years, including till 2019, the total amount of waste have gone down.
Yes.
Total amount of waste generated has gone down by about 6% from 18 to 19. But the good news is that actually the significant amount of waste that has reduced is really paper, plastic, and food waste. And plastic and food waste, just now I say, were two of the three key streams, right? So plastic waste actually has reduced significantly. What is not so good is the mixed recycling rate performance.
Because it takes
right?
time to...
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's not that. It's actually more, it could be some of that, but primarily it's also because of the low market demand, international market for plastic recyclables. Very low demand now, so the price is very low, and therefore you find a lot of people don't want to recycle. And also because if you notice, across the world now, there's a lot of policy constraints about plastic recyclables, even shipping it there. So, that's what Minister was trying to get me to say, that we need to grow our own local plastic recycling industry, value chain, right? And we are now looking at setting up private sector. We are trying to encourage with EDB, encourage people to set up a mechanical recycling, plastic recycling plant. So all these PET bottles and all that, they can recycle and becomes plastic pellets, then can use for products. But some of these, like your single-use plastic bags, which are contaminated or that you cannot do mechanical recycling. So we are looking into chemical recycling, which complements mechanical recycling. And you know what chemical recycling will do? All these single-use plastic, you can turn it into pyrolysis oil, which is feedstock for our refinery.
And again, back to that
naphtha
circular economy
and so on.
thing.
Yeah, and okay, let me finish this. Yeah, let me finish this. And this oil, we are going to call new oil.
Yes.
New water, new sand, and then we're going to get new oil.
So a lot we have no oil, but we got resource now.
A lot of resources, and we've got new industries where there are going to be more newer jobs as well. So we've talked about waste, we've talked about a bit of flooding and food, but I also want to talk about one of our goals, which was to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 36% by 2030. How are we faring on that front, Minister?
Well, we have just submitted our long-term emission targets. By 2050, we should peak up to by 2030, we will peak up to 64 megaton.
Yes.
Then we'll go down by 2050 by half, about 33 megaton.
Yeah.
Then beyond that, carbon neutrality. Now, looks like why not zero straight away? I have to re-quote what SMTO said, that in Singapore is always, we are never a climate skeptic, nor are we a tree hugger. We know what we need, what the world needs to survive, to thrive, and our economy needs it too. But we have to transition it. And we have to send a right signal to tell the industry, move. So for example, one of the signals they're putting, the passing of the Carbon Tax Act, they're going to tax everybody, no exemption. Secondly, if Energy Efficient Act, audit their energy use so that we can reduce energy. So these are all the things that we need to do now. But in the long horizon, some very interesting possibilities are there. For example, carbon capture, utilization and storage, CCUS. This is growing up very fast. So carbon dioxide being produced can be captured with technology. Now, it's not there yet because it's expensive, but over time, I think we'll get there. But what I like most is hydrogen. Because, places like the deserts, like Saudi in UAE, they're so lucky, But I mean, desert used to be something that is a wasteland.
Yeah.
But you can also put miles and miles of solar panels. But ironically, they don't need the solar energy because they have lots. They think they have a lot of oil. But this solar energy can electrolyze water to produce hydrogen. Now, hydrogen is almost like a fossil fuel. Imagine when we have a car to charge electricity, take a day, 8 hours, 2 hours.
Yeah.
But hydrogen can be filled. Think of it that way. And it can be ergonomically similar to what we are used to in fossil fuel, fill and go. But it's still dangerous. But what is good about hydrogen is the outcome of burning hydrogen is water. So over the long horizon, we must bet and build technologies, possibilities, R&D in hydrogen, in CCUS, and we are doing that. Because these are the things that will promise us new fields as petrochemicals maybe come down and maybe die off even. But new technologies will still be needed to make life pleasant, to drive an economy, and better get there first. So these are the promising things that's like what Amy said just now. Sometimes a crisis, we should not waste it.
Exactly.
We have a climate change crisis, but we also have a future that we can bet on and grow in and then define it.
Excellent. Yeah, it seems that I think it's very heartening as a Singaporean myself to hear that there are so many robust plans in this area of climate change where the government is actively engaging the people to come up with new plans to see how we can be on the forefront of things. And we're actually actively taking steps to fight this. We have to bring the conversation to a close. There's still so much more I want to discuss with you. Yes, but that's what I was told.
Can I touch a touchy issue?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I think there's quite a bit of always conversation about this charging for single-use plastics, right? So let me say that we are open to this, right? But we want to make sure that we actually come up with a solution that is pragmatic, that is inclusive for Singaporeans, that will be beneficial for Singaporeans, and make sure that it is something that's workable, not a substitution kind of a case. And therefore, this is my pitch that we are actually going to start this reducing excessive consumption of disposables, which includes single-use bags. Work group. And in fact, registration is open now, 15 June to 19 July. So please, if you are interested and you want to champion for it, please sign up. We are, the work group can discuss about how we're going to reduce excessive consumption, including, of course, proposing whether you should study into whether you should charge for single-use plastic bag, right? But we need to look at it and whether it is something that is useful and acceptable to Singaporeans, right? In fact, I think NTUC FairPrice started, right? They charging for some, and apparently the reception is pretty good. So we need to look at this.
I've been seeing so many people bring their own bags, to the supermarket.
I absolutely agree with Dr. Khor. I'm looking forward to joining that group.
I'm not sure whether you can join or not.
Let me be part of it in some way. But because I wanted to share that, the 3 R's, right? It wouldn't be possible if we do not, on a personal basis, implement it with the other 2 R's. 2 R's meaning one is refuse. Refusing, if you think that you don't really need in terms of plastic spoons because when you go out to buy, refuse. Right? Another one is repair. Is this something that it can still be used? Because we grew up with our grandparents, you know, they always think that it's sustainable, you can repair it. So these are the things that, as on a personal basis, these are ground initiatives that we have to think about and consider as well, to go on top of the initiatives that the government has suggested or implemented. Yes.
So the 5 R's altogether. So just very quickly, if we could just summarize, what is your one goal or let's say ethos when it comes to tackling climate change? If you could just have a one-liner. Maybe we'll start with you, Hany. Besides the 5 R's.
Then I will still link back to education, right? Because it takes two hands to clap, in the sense is that it's benefiting for our children, because what we are doing now is really for the sake of our next generation. I have a 16-month-old baby girl, and that's where really, the moment once I have her, all these ideas really come across my mind. In the past, I didn't see that as so important in that sense. So what we are really doing is that we want it to educate our children. At the same time, we can pass it down, one generation after another.
Starts with education.
Yes.
Thank you, Hany. Dr. Khor.
Well, the government cannot do this alone. Every action counts.
So collaboration and
That's right.
co-creation.
That's right.
Thank you, Dr. Khor. Minister.
If in the past we are very well known for our clean and green, but in the future, sustainability is what will give us the guarantee for economic resilience, resource resilience, and climate resilience.
Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us today. And thank you for joining us. You've been watching Straight Talk with PAP.